A reading from the book of Revelation. Then I, John, saw a new heaven and a new earth. The former heaven and the former earth had passed away, and the sea was no more. I also saw the holy city, a new Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, "Behold, God's dwelling is with the human race. He will dwell with them, and they will be his people, and God himself will always be with them as their God. He will wipe every tear from their eyes, and there shall be no more death or mourning, wailing or pain, for the old order has passed away." The one who sat on the throne said, "Behold, I make all things new." The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
When Judas had left them, Jesus said, "Now is the Son of Man glorified, and God is glorified in him. If God is glorified in him, God will also glorify him in himself, and God will glorify him at once. My children, I will be with you only a little while longer. I give you a new commandment: love one another. As I have loved you, so you should also love one another. This is how all will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
I give you a new commandment, love one another. What does this mean? The word love in English means so many things that we can lose out on the essence of what it's all about. I mean, it can mean the greatest generosity, philanthropy, down to the basest instincts. So it's a whole range of meaning. We're talking about love in this context. We're talking about not any kind of love, but the love that comes from God. And it is His love that goes through us out to others. It's not just any kind of love, but it is love that is based on our union with God. So what are the characteristics of this love? Well, if we look at Jesus, He laid down His life for His friends. Christian love is sacrificial. And this can be seen in many a marriage where husband and wife each of them lays down his life for the other, for the children. It can be seen in very extraordinary ways. The famous story of Elizabeth LeSueur, whose husband was an atheist, and he was bound and determined to debunk the Catholic faith. In the meantime, Elizabeth herself was very ill, and she was confined to her bed. She used to keep a journal, and she would write things in it every day that her husband didn't know what she was writing, and he really didn't care because he didn't like the fact that she was a Catholic herself. So he went to Lourdes, which is where St. Bernadette saw the Blessed Mother, and he was going to go there because he wanted to debunk it. But he took one look at the statue of Our Lady, and something happened to him. The man changed. Well, it turned out that after Elizabeth died, people looked into her journal, and she offered all of her sufferings up for her husband. So much so that he ended up dying as a Dominican priest. So we see the power of love touching somebody through a person's sacrifice of herself. Christian love is merciful. So we have Sister Faustina of Poland continually praying for the living and the deceased, offering masses for people, and having this very particular devotion to people who are dying. We should always think about that in every moment somebody is dying, the person needs to have the grace of God to persevere or to convert at the last minute. And it's love that will be concerned for people to this effect. Love is compassionate. Father John Calabria from Italy, good example. He was dying. The year was 1954. What he did was, when he found out that the Pope was dying at the same time, he compassionately offered all of his sufferings for the Holy Father, Pope Pius XII. Very surprisingly, Pope Pius XII's health reversed itself, and he was no longer dying, and he was able to continue on his papal office for 4 more years. John Calabria was canonized as saint in 1999. He was a man of great love. In fact, he started a couple of religious orders, and he was very dedicated to foundlings, or children who were abandoned. Love goes out to everyone. In the story of St. Francis of Assisi, he started out as being basically somewhat of a lax young Catholic. And one of the main reasons for his conversion was that something happened to him. He saw a leper, and not only did he help the leper with some sort of coinage, but he kissed the leper and completely changed him. Love goes out to people who are unlovely, the Christian love. Love is also disinterested love, meaning it's not what I can get out of it. So St. Peter Claver, for example, worked in South America tending to the needs of the African slaves. Very often his help was not appreciated, but he didn't let that bother him because he was doing it not for himself. So Christian love does not require self-affirmation. You have to think about that. Jesus demonstrated this very much throughout his life and his death. Christian love goes out to one's enemies. In 1936, there was a terrible revolution in Spain. It was a revolution that was trying to rid Spain of the Catholic Church. Something like a person trying to cut off his own head, really. But when people become faithless, they lose their capacity to reason properly. So a group of seminarians was to be executed. There were 42 of them in the seminary. And right before they were killed, each of them publicly forgave his executioners because the seminarians had hearts full of love, even extended to the enemies. In Lackawanna, New York, there is a very famous church, which, if you're ever up in that area, it's not too far from Buffalo. It's called Our Lady of Victory. But it was started by this Monsignor Nelson Baker, who drilled for oil, which people thought he was kind of crazy, you know. But they found oil, took the money, and built this beautiful shrine to Our Lady. But what Monsignor Baker did was he built a facility or a hospital or hospice or something for foundlings, for orphans. There's a picture of him, a photograph, where he's in this large room with dozens of babies in carriages, in cribs, and so forth. I can't help but think to myself that today, these children would have been aborted. So love is something that we need to go out to other people, to help, to allow us to be the people we should be, extending ourselves toward others. Even in little things. There's a story about St. Therese in the convent. She was particularly rubbed the wrong way by a certain nun who was ungrateful, who had sort of a grating personality. But Therese was bound and determined to love her, so she did everything she could for this sister. And one day, when Therese smiled at the sister smiled back. So love can touch the most hardened hearts if we give it a chance. And that's the thing. We must give love a chance. How do we obtain this love? We must be people of prayer. And we must have a devotion. I would recommend a devotion to the Holy Spirit, because one of the fruits of the Holy Spirit is love. And use the opportunities that present themselves to exercise acts of love. What dampens love is venial sin. What extinguishes love is mortal sin. But also, when people stop performing acts of love, love starts to wane. So it's something that needs to be practiced. And we ask the Lord to help us understand that we need to be loving, and to ask Him to how we can demonstrate this in the way we live, even in small ways. And that's the first step, and a very important step, in living out the commandment that Jesus gave us, the commandment to love.